people who care about the future, who are interested in new things, and open-minded. And that's, I think, what is also an element for Switzerland, for our success story. Open-minded, be open to new technologies, open to new elements, although we have to know the risks and the negative impacts of development. I would like to thank therefore Imani for the invitation and indeed all of you for your interest. We are here to talk about digitalization and social media in Switzerland and in Ghana. It is worth remembering that our two countries have played an important role in the history of the internet. It's often forgotten. The World Wide Web, WWW, was originally developed in Switzerland by the Briton Tim Berners-Lee at CERN in Geneva. So we did not care enough about the World Wide Web, so it was more Americanized, but actually the history, the original developing situation was in Switzerland. And Ghana was the first African country to be connected to the internet back in 1994. So you have a long history, and this means you've been, once again, a pioneer in Africa. So my congratulations to that. Digitalization, the rise of social media, have had a radical impact on the economy and society and will have in the future. The pace of technological change is extremely high. That presents us with a challenge. For Africa, in my view, it presents a big opportunity. By starting out with new technologies, barriers to development and distances can be overcome, resulting in more rapid growth. The internet and social media can lead to the spread of knowledge as well as better understanding and greater openness. Many of today's challenges, such as slowing the pace of climate change, managing migration, fighting poverty, achieving the UN Social Development Goals, can only be tackled together. Great progress has already been made in some of these areas. Never has access to education, access to electricity or mobility been a reality for so many people. Switzerland has an interest in the long-term consolidation of economic dynamism in Africa and elsewhere. The linchpin in tackling all these challenges will be the unhindered access to information and communication technologies. They aren't a cure-all, but they can make a significant contribution to improving general livelihood and economic activity. That is why we are committed to equal access to the internet for the world's population, something which today is not the case, and where we are also on international level very engaged by the WEF in Davos, but also by the UN organizations. Switzerland has been active in Ghana for a number of years through its Economic Development Cooperation Program. The program specifically addresses middle-income countries and promotes sustainable and inclusive growth, which benefits the whole population. The country strategy we signed today, a couple of hours ago, underlines our commitment to Ghana as one of 8 priority countries for economic development cooperation. A number of projects in the framework of this strategy are in the field of digitalization. For example, Switzerland supports the development of platforms which should make it easier to register a business or allow firms to access relevant laws. Another project aims to enable broad groups of population to handling access to financial services via mobile phones, something which is already very popular and very helpful, especially for SMEs. It's interesting in this context that Ghana has now overtaken us Swiss, in terms of mobile phone penetration. The latest figures show a rate of 139% in Ghana versus 135% in Switzerland. Taking into account that just 10 years ago, the rate in Switzerland was more than 4 times higher than your penetration in Ghana, this is particularly impressive. And this shows that your population, your government, probably also your economic tissue, made the change and considers the mobile phone, considers the internet as a big opportunity, a game changer for Ghana. So my congratulations for that. Ladies and gentlemen, with the continual availability of internet access, the importance of electronic services, but also of social media has risen dramatically. The terms of today's event is the influence of social media on governance. Switzerland and Ghana are stable democracies, but democratic stability and an open society cannot be taken for granted. They have to be defended anew under changing conditions. And we can identify inspiring but also destabilizing factors related to social media. In Switzerland, when we have a very dynamic direct democracy, it's very important to have very good information at the quality level. On the one hand, exchanges via these platforms, the new platforms, online platforms, doubtless empower citizens to gather information and to connect. Campaigns by civil society groups can be organized far more easily and more cost-effectively. Information flows more rapidly. The financial power of business and lobbyists can be countered through crowdfunding. Social media, therefore, is changing the narrative on transparency, giving voice and serving as a rallying tool for citizens to demand greater accountability. And the authorities are under closer scrutiny, but can also benefit from the information that citizens provide with them. As an example, we have here a representative from the government of Zurich. The city of Zurich, they operate an online platform that residents can use to notify the authorities of damage to the city's infrastructure. Very helpful platform, and this transparency also improves the quality of the services of the authorities. We know of reports about bots that are supposed to have been used to influence democratic elections. We also know about the risk of filter bubbles when people only connect with people who share similar views. Many of these phenomena are not really new, but social media accelerates the pace and reach. Democracies, ladies and gentlemen, governments depend on citizens having access to accurate, researched information. Only with accurate facts can people form an opinion in order to boost the chances of current developments and minimize the risks. I can see 3 key answers that would be necessary for us to survey. It needs first courage and optimism. Second, decisive action against criminal activities. And third, cooperation between all stakeholders at global level. The first element of my thesis, trust in civil society. You know, Switzerland, we are a very liberal country, and Switzerland is somewhat skeptical when it comes to state intervention. We trust that civil society and economic actors are resilient and capable of learning. They can think themselves. They are very well educated. They have access to information. To give you an example, if citizens have access to a wide range of information and learn to take a critical approach, then we don't have to see fake news as a threat to democratic decision-making. What is important, however, is that the necessary instruments and measures are in place to have a correcting effect. There are newspapers and blogs that reveal fake news stories through the quality of their sources and research. We also know that in the event of disasters, aid efforts can sometimes be organized more quickly through social media than the authorities could ever manage. My second point, efforts against cybercriminality. This is for Switzerland and I think for many governments a very critical element. We know that the illegal use of digital technologies is a challenge of the 21st century. Cyberspace is increasingly being misused for criminal, power political and intelligence gathering purposes. Via digital networks on infrastructure such as power supply and telecommunication systems can destabilize states. International cooperation is one of the means by which Switzerland represents its foreign policy interests in the area of cyber security. The country participates in various international processes and initiatives. We need also very good education and common education of experts. Cooperation in this field seems to us very important, as well as adequate penalties when we can really tackle some people who were involved in cyber criminality. So penalty is also here a very important element of prevention. The third element of my thesis, governance at global level, is not yet developed. We have to think about the internet and who is the adequate governance body. Is this more at WTO, an element of trade? Is it more at WIPO, an element of intellectual property rights? Have we to create a new body which shows about and cares about the governance? The internet is evolving, as we know, at a very high pace, but there is so far a regulatory lag, where regulation, including regulation on security measures, always lags behind technology. How do we close that gap? We need to discuss what is needed, and when on national level every nation has another body, another access, this won't work with the internet. So we need an international approach. What level of societal risk are we prepared to accept? What is the right balance between empowerment and regulation? Pooling the strengths of different stakeholders to protect infrastructure and users in order to achieve a safer internet for everyone is a way forward. All stakeholders, whether government, private sector, technical community or civil society, have skills and elements to add to a common solution, but we need rules of engagement and we need to agree on the respective roles and responsibilities of all stakeholders. The UN Internet Governance Forum is one of the most relevant global platforms for multi-stakeholder dialogue about how to benefit from the opportunities and how to minimize risk that the internet and the digital transformation of our societies and economies offer. Perhaps it's the adequate body to really care about these issues. The IGF is based on an open and inclusive bottom-up process and allows everybody to participate, in person or remotely. I am proud to inform you that the Swiss government will host this year's IGF from 18 to 21 December at the United Nations offices in Geneva. I would like to invite you, Ghana, to participate in the preparations as well as in the discussions at the IGF itself. We will have there the most relevant economies, the most relevant companies who are in the internet, care about social media, and I think that's the only way, bringing people from the economy, from academia, from governments and the civil society together. Today, it's a lot of American influence. We all know that. Maybe good, maybe dangerous. It's a lot of power we're giving them. So that's why we think multinational organizations would be the better answer, would be equal treatment for everybody, and that we not have a shift by giving access to so many interesting data to a couple, 3 to 5 companies all over the world. Ladies and gentlemen, digitalization fills some people with enthusiasm, others with trepidation. Not everybody is an expert. Robots, drones, and new technologies create winners and losers. If we are to prevent a situation in which just a few benefit, digitalization has to be democratized, just as knowledge was democratized with the invention of printing. Political and economic actors have the wonderful task and responsibility of showing people that they are witnessing a historic age. Governance must be transparent, must be equal treatment for everybody, and this seems to me possible also in the era of internet and with social media. The key to success is probably, like in many areas, education. By investing in education, the exchange of knowledge and openness in innovation, we can give people prospects for the future. That applies to all countries, for Ghana just as much as for Switzerland. And with your mobile penetration, you're ahead of many others. I thank you.